It's unlearning, as you said, because you've been programmed, so you have to like unprogram. So in my case, or many, I think it's many people's case, it's they went to this institution. They might have been the first ever. They had to like really code switch. We use the word code switching a lot, and third culture kids are intersectional or the underestimated communities. And I think the code switch comes again with that fatigue. So it's identifying, I think, whether or not you can afford to. I think affording it's privilege. I have a lot of privileges that I must be conscious of. I can choose to take a path that maybe someone else cannot choose. So it's understanding if I have the privilege to make the choice, and then I think it's maintaining the course. And I think it's finding those spaces. The spaces don't have to be physical, they can be virtual, where there are people who want to see you win. Someone said, go where you're celebrated, not where you're tolerated. So I think that is very powerful here because if you're kind of chipping away in a space where you're tolerated, it requires so much from you to maintain that course. Whereas if you're celebrated somewhere, it's almost like you're lifted. Your wings have wind underneath them. You just have greater confidence. Even if you still don't know many answers, you know that there's a path where you will have helping hands along the path. And I think that identifying that path is probably one of those valuable things to do in order to get you to where you need to be. Because you have a great thesis, a great hypothesis, and trying to like shoot here. The real on the ground things, I think many founders who have done business for a long time, but they weren't like MBA to founder. They were more so like they built things in real life. I think that is almost the sobriety of real life every day and engaging with, well, I know the real truth behind certain communities and how they engage with celebrating versus tolerating. So why not occupy space there, then fight this battle over here where I'm kind of just tolerated and I feel fatigued all the
I love it. That's so important to talk about that. We sometimes trying to prove ourselves to the wrong people in the wrong environments rather than actually serving where you belong and where you care and where you can make a difference and people are open. It's crazy how our immune system sometimes can also fire up and react and you understand that you're in the wrong place. And
Yes,
then
and we
whom
need
are
to
you
listen.
trying to prove?
And we must listen to it because it'll tell us over and over. Yeah. Have that
Yeah.
muscle. It's like your intuition.
Yeah, but we need to create space for the intuition as well. So if we are running blindly, we're not
Mhm,
gonna sense it and not gonna feel it. So it's
mhm.
kind of there's always a compromise you have to make. Talking about compromises, right? So in order to have that intuition and in order to get where you want, one thing is to have the direction that can change and have those goals. But another thing, and the most important is, I do believe, is how we are getting there and how do we operate in a daily life. So how do you, Marcus, make sure that you run the day and not the day runs you? What are your non-negotiables to have a successful day?
Interesting. I think it's to start earlier. It's been this thing that I realize if I start earlier and I read in the morning, I think I have ADHD. I also have I'm neurodiverse. Growing up, I had memory issues, so retaining information. So I've been always very I had like a hang up on whether or not I was actually for all the identity questions. It was the well-read component that I actually was more so like, will I do well in school? So I think at times, like you can be insecure about something, but it's also good to intentionally build it. I found with the rituals of waking up, reading, whether it's articles, a book, or even practicing language, like I'll practice French or German in the morning. I think it does something to rewire just kind of how you start the day. It gives you the momentum. I also will like blast dancehall music or soca, which in the morning time people would be like, "Don't you want to listen to birds?" And I'm like, "No, I needed this like call from the ancestors to kind of like get me and my fire going." I think it's almost like having a little party in the morning kind of changes with more of a positive frame, but also with reading and doing things that make you think. I think it just helps you time stick in a way where I'm more conscious of like time slipping. I'm more not too much anxiety, like I wouldn't read all news in the morning, but something that's a mixture of reflection. I might even write in the morning. I think it's a mixture of all these things that are almost like mental exercises to get the day going, and I find I have the most productive days. I get a lot out. I feel more positive.
Whenever I'm gonna be running the day party, I'm gonna send you a priority invitation. You'll be coming, and then we can put some island tunes and everything. You can show your music of expression. Would be really, really awesome. Okay,
Yeah.
we're getting closer to the end. I have two final questions if we have time. Do we have still 5 minutes? Or we're very in a rush? One question I really had to ask you. So, what inspires your own inner style and self expression through clothing and different styling elements, etc.? Because you definitely, when we met, I told you already several times, you, first of all, you caught the attention on your style, on your energy and presence. So, where do you get the inspiration and what styles you?
Great question. I'm just trying to keep it short because I have a tendency to meander. I really was not about the aesthetic of Middle America growing up. I was like, nah. There was also a lot of this very colonial dress that where it was incorporated. Um, in my childhood that I fought against, and I'm glad I did. I was very obviously closeted, queer, etc. in the middle America. It was very much like I want to touch the rest of the world. I want to experiment. I was a model, so I was used to being a canvas and wearing multiple different aesthetics, cuts, silhouettes, textures. I even studied fashion in the design component of my degree. So there are many ways it connected me to the rest of the world. And I think I could see even from my work in design school compared to everybody else's, I was constantly pulling from different parts of the world. I wasn't Eurocentric. I actually reformed curriculum for my school and expanded. We had fashion history, and it was two semesters, and it was repeat. Half of it was repeating in each class, and it was very Eurocentric. And I helped change so that the second is global fashion history. And I think that that's incredibly important. Actually, I had gone to work in Hong Kong, and my boss was like, "You don't know what this is called, and you're coming from one of the top design schools in the world. You Westerners don't like look at the rest of the world." So I was very much like, I want to look at the rest of the world all the time. And I love it. I think about many layers to fashion, layering yourself, but also telling your story, or maybe borrowing elements from other spaces. So yeah, I think you can be androgynous, you can mix colors, you can mix textures, you can mix silhouettes, like experiment, find what feels comfortable to you. That's what I've tried to do a lot of the time. And I do know it's a power. Even in personal branding, I talk about different magnets, and the outlier bias is a magnet I often talk about, where what is the most different in the space is what is remembered. So if you want to play off of like human psychology, like you literally sometimes it's you just want to be fabulous because that's who you are. And then it's great to do that. You feel better. You have a more authentic interaction with people, which people love. And then also they're like, this person was wearing like fuchsia, or this person was in this kind of like anime cut or had some kind of like cool layer. And it like people remember that and they really like it. So I've always yeah, been drawn to a lot of cultures in the African Asian continents that kind of blend androgyny, and that's kind of like where I sit.
Lovely. Thank you for sharing. Okay. I have a tradition in the podcast to finish the podcast with a thought to ponder for the listeners. So to founders who are here with us today, what would you like them to think about that they've just heard?
Hmm. I would say the magnet conversation. So I'm thinking very in a strategic way for what would benefit them. In this instance, what are ways that you can alter small things to get explosive results? Maybe it's not that hyperbolic, but if you are more authentic with your fashion when you're going to a conference, maybe that helps you attract leads that are different than the ones you anticipated. It gives you an idea of who's interested in you as a founder. And then when you introduce what you're building, maybe they also have a higher correlation with resonance. So I would say, excuse me, explore some of those things as you think of engaging with others. I like to talk about engaging with others a lot. and what we do to change that dynamic, because I think it's very important. In the age of AI, what is important is your partnerships, your relationships, your cultural capital. I think that those are things to be defended, preserved, and understood better, our interactions with other people. So I would say explore that, explore engaging with different people and explore with expressing yourself differently and see how that kind of alters your perspective on even doing business.